Hi everybody, Russ and Miami's 11. Hope you're all safe and well, and you've all recovered from the disappointment of Sunday. If you're new to the channel, please consider. We're still the top team in London.
We are.
Who cares? If you're new to the channel, please
long.
consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon to notify any time you put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below. Today's guest, he's doing all right. His podcast, his mid-tabling up podcast, it's getting there, isn't it? It's getting there, George, isn't it?
Getting there, mate. Like, you know what? Yeah, we're getting there with the content side of things now. I think it's just, we want to just maybe branch out a little bit, try and get some listeners and that. But no, the content, I really quite like what we're doing because, it's just 10. We normally just list a top 10 topic, whether it's greatest Premier League players of all time or the one that's come out today actually is our top 10 games we've seen live. So, like I went to the 2006 FA Cup final, was there at Wembley when we got promoted and the last game of Upton Park. So, yeah, I did have some crackers to talk about on our most recent episode of the podcast for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a great concept. I think it's good that, as I said to you before, when we talked beforehand about the whole sort of top 10. Yeah, it's lists. People love lists, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And I couldn't really think because we mainly did it because the pubs were closing down.
Yeah,
and we'd kind of talked about it a little bit. So we sat down in November right before the pubs closed down and said, let's take this seriously and actually try, to make something of it really. And there's so many football podcasts out there. It is a bit of it's a real saturated kind of market, but I couldn't really think of any mainstream ones that really sort of had the idea of doing lists or at least the top 10, that kind of thing. So yeah, we just kind of sort of ran with that concept and just trying to, as I said, get listeners. I do like our discussions, and it's good because more often than not, we don't always agree with each other. Which just helps them because it's a bit. At least then there's an element of debate, and sometimes it can get a little bit heated as well if we really don't agree with each other. So it just makes for better content, really.
It does, and it gives us and in a day, George. I've learned this as well. It just gives you an excuse to get to get out. But so for me, it's like every hour, every night at 9 o'clock. I can come into my garage and talk about West Ham with someone, and it's just brilliant. And it's like I don't have to watch Married at First Sight Australia or anything like that.
Sod that. Yeah.
So it's I was method in my madness at the time, whenever it was 9 months ago or something.
Oh, definitely, mate. I think we'd all gone mad watching Married at First Sight in lockdown with bugger all else to do.
I can't believe there's so many series of it. That's the thing. I looked up and I went, is this where's this couple? I should it's a new series. They made another one.
But the thing is as well, because I'm sure they'd all end in divorce, wouldn't they? You'd think so.
Probably.
And they'll be like, I just don't really get on with it. I'm like, well, of course you don't. You don't know the bastards that you
met. Exactly. It's not surprising. They've just been thrown together for the purpose of a TV show and put in full situation. Anyway, we digress as we always do on this channel. How are you, George? How have you been, man?
Yeah, man, I'm okay. I'm all right, really. I'm glad I've got the podcast. I'm glad I've got, my family and my girlfriend to keep me occupied because especially this winter lockdown, the summer one was kind of okay because
the summer one was a piece of piss.
Yeah, exactly. Because
in retrospect to now.
Yeah, completely. Especially once you get past Christmas as well. It can, even without lockdown, the weather can be a bit naff and people aren't going out as much anyway. But when it's just work and then back home to just sit on your sofa and again, like try to avoid those crappy TV programs, everything just becomes a little bit repetitive. And as I said, it's kind of what I'm glad that I've got my podcast to do. I'm glad that, I can still, I live with my family and things. So I'm glad I've still got that going on and my girlfriend and everything like that. That's fine. And also, again, up until the weekend, West Ham 6 wins on the bounce. That always makes it more helpful when West Ham are doing well.
Yeah, could you imagine? Imagine if, West Ham were doing shit and, we had all this to handle with. It's the one thing we haven't had to worry about for a while. And we still don't. We still don't have to worry, but it's like looking back at it. Yes, in with a clear head, we lost to a better team.
Yeah, no, we did, and it's one of them things where Liverpool, it was probably the best time to play Liverpool for a little while. I know they'd got that really good win over Spurs, but they are still a really good team. I would have liked to have seen us maybe go for it a little bit more in that first half, but it is what it is. Had we gone for it, we could have still maybe lost the game anyway, because they're the champions for a reason. It would have just been nice to maybe have seen us get on the front foot a little bit more, try and take the game to them a little bit, because, no Van Dijk, obviously, no Mane, they were missing some big players, but it is what it is. And, as long as we keep beating the teams that we feel like we should be beating, then we'll still have, the season should go on to be a really good one. It's our most encouraging one since the last season at Upton Park. So long may that continue. Really,
I think actually, to be perfectly honest, I think this surpasses that season in that it's not all about one person.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a real team. It's a real team, and that's what I love about it. I think this team would smash that team.
I know. I agree.
You know what I mean? As long
as we stick 2 men on Payet, we'd be fine.
But don't take free kicks. Yeah,
exactly. Don't give away any free kicks near the box. But I agree. I think the team spirit and the team camaraderie, I think the way they're drilled, I do think it's a superior team to the one that we had in that last year at Upton Park for certain. And it's really great to see, because since the move, we've really been missing that. We've looked a bit, disjointed for a lot of the time, and we've never really strung together some proper form over a consistent period. Whereas, these first 21 games of the Premier League, I think it's by far exceeded anyone's expectations. If you go as far back to the Newcastle game, if you'd have said to West Ham fans, in 20 games time, you're going to be sitting in 5th, I don't think any of us would have believed you at that point. So, long may that continue, and fair play to Moyes. He's proved myself wrong, and I think he's proved a lot of the fan base wrong as well. He's doing a cracking job, and long may that continue.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with everything. I think he's doing a cracking job, and I think it's one of those things where, you're right. If someone said to you, even before the Newcastle game, when the fixtures came out, you go, right, okay, so all right, you're going to do 5th by the end of January. You'll be the top team in London. Okay, I'll take that. Why not? Why not? No,
exactly. And what are we on now? Like 35 points, something like that. We're only 4 off of last season's total, and we've still got another 17 games to go. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
it's a great shout.
Yeah, there's so much credit needs to go to the team and to the coaching staff as well as the manager. Like Souček and Rice have been incredible in that midfield role. Like, I don't really think there's a better centre midfield pairing in the league at the minute. They've just been unbelievable. Yeah. He's on 7 Premier League goals from defensive midfield, and we're only 21 games into the season. It's crazy. And just Antonio's been, when he's not been injured, he's been on fire. So it's just been, and we've been solid as well. It's the first time in yonks I can remember us being solid, because even that last year at Upton Park, we were really good going forward, and we were really good to watch, but you knew that we would leak goals quite often. So it's been, Craig Dawson's come in, and wow, what a signing he's been so far.
I think there's a couple of people I think the fan base have had to eat humble pie over.
Completely.
I don't care. That's the sweetest,
me too.
That's the sweetest pie, is the humble pie.
Completely. You know what? If I say something negative about one of our players or about the manager, I want to be proved wrong. I don't want to be sitting there going, look at me, I was right for saying that, because then you just look like a knob, but also the team isn't benefiting from that. I'd much rather sit there and go, why did we buy Dawson? What do we need him for? And then get to the point that Dawson is now, where he's been a rock for us since he's come in. And again, I'm just sat here going, you know what, give me that humble pie. I'm going to eat that right up and say, sorry, Dawson, I got it wrong. You've been brilliant, mate. And that, again, same with the manager, the coaching staff, the team, again, thinking that we were going to probably be in a relegation battle after that Newcastle game. To be where we are now, I just take my hat off to them and say, fair play, you've proved myself and loads of the fans wrong, and that's all you can really ask for, to be honest.
Definitely. And I mean, it's and we still haven't had a penalty this season.
That's mental. I can't believe that.
Or a red card.
Yeah, that's a bit of a funny one.
Which is a funny one as well. The only thing that I looked at the other day when I was looking at the stats, because I like to look at stats, sometimes, is I think we've had 7 clean sheets out of the 21 games, and we've still conceded 27 goals. So it's like when we do let a goal in, we let a few in. You know what I mean? So when we do lose, we do lose quite heavily, or 3 or 4. So we do get a fair whack. But
it's been such a weird season, though, hasn't it? I mean, because looking, like we were 3-0 down to Spurs, and that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. That comeback was fantastic. You take that all day. But then you look at, say, that the Chelsea game we lost 3-0. That was never a 3-0 game.
No,
that was never a 3-0 game. And yeah, again, the Liverpool game, first half, as I said, I'd have liked to see us get on the front foot a bit more. But the first half, they didn't really offer anything going forward either.
No.
And in the second half, it was just Salah's a world-class player. He does what world-class players do. You can't really do much about it. The ball into him for the second goal, the touch, the finish. It's one you take you out of and go fair play. That's just a great piece of skill.
It was, yeah.
So yeah, but it's a bit of a weird one. But again, we for the most part we have looked solid, and we've managed to grind out a lot of wins that I think in previous seasons we really wouldn't have got. And
definitely.
Yeah, I think it shows, like the Sheffield United was a tough game. Fulham, Villa, again, I know we got a little bit of luck against Villa, but I feel like we're owed a bit of luck considering we've not had a penalty this season.
Yeah.
And they're only in the league because of VAR, goal line technology not working last season. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's one of them things. But yeah, overall, as long as we just keep going in this same pattern, it should be a really, really positive season. And a lot better season than we all thought we were going to see.
Yeah, no, totally. I think what's the thing, because I always look at, because obviously I love West Ham clips and the alternative commentary that he does.
Oh yeah,
and I noticed, he's brilliant. I love clips. We've had him on the channel. He's brilliant. He's so funny.
Great.
He did like his own 11, like he did a clips 11, and he did it as a sound file. He did it as like an interview. It's very funny. I'm very proud of that. Anyway, and I did a quiz once the other day, and I found out that in the Premier League, I think we hit the crossbar in something like 20% of our games or something like that on average. This is throughout our whole Premier League history. And I think this season, I think we've hit the crossbar or hit the woodwork 13 times.
I was going to say,
in 21 games?
I was going to say, aren't we top of the statistics for hitting the woodwork this season?
Must be.
That's ridiculous because the Man United game, I think we hit the post the woodwork a couple of times, and again. We lost that game. What was it? 3-1 in the end, wasn't it? But
that game's different because obviously these 3-1 to Liverpool, and I thought, well, to be honest, Liverpool pretty much bossed that game. To be honest, they were like, Klopp did he moised us. He knew exactly what to do, and he tactically was better. But that Man United game, that hurt more because that's the game we should have. We should have won that game.
We should have been out of sight at half time in that game.
Definitely.
And then, I know we switched off a little bit for a little 5-10 minute spell, but their first goal, the ball was out of play. Yeah. And had that first goal not go in, you don't know where the game might end up. So yeah, that one was a much more of a bitter pill to swallow, really. But yeah, again, it's Man United, so you can't really expect anything. That had that been the other way around, that'd have been VAR would have been looking at that for 10 minutes trying to rule that out.
Over and over. Yeah, trying to find a way to award it. But yeah. As long as we don't lose to them next Wednesday, I'm all right. Next Tuesday, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's the game, isn't it? That's the game.
That is the game. We need to get a bit of revenge for that 2016 season, for sure, because we shouldn't have lost that cup tie.
No.
That was a foul on Darren Randolph at Old Trafford after Payet scored that great free kick. So, yeah, hopefully a little bit of revenge. But saying that, though, looking at them, they've been really poor at Old Trafford this season. They've not really played that well there. So,
and it makes no sense. Logically, it makes no sense now. Home or away, you should have almost identical.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's no fans. It's like you're not doing nothing different.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you're going to be a little bit more familiar with like the pitch and the stuff like that. But as you said, it's not that. The fans is really the key thing in where they've been missed during this pandemic. So yeah, it's a little bit weird that they've been so much better away from home than they have been at home. But saying that, though, most of their wins away have also been games that they've conceded in, and then they've had a better second half. But yeah, if we can just get through that Man United game, see who we get after that. We could, I think we should really be prioritising the FA Cup this year.
Oh, definitely, most definitely. It'd be interesting to see whether they sort of make Lingard train on his own next week. Because Agent Lingard could be a mole for them as well. Who knows? What formation you play and vice versa. So
it's a bit of a weird one.
But no, and hopefully he'll be in the squad for the Villa game.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know if I'd throw him straight in because I can't even remember the last time he played football, to be honest. And I feel like maybe Fornals is a little bit underrated in that he could improve on his final ball and his finishing, but he puts in a graft. He puts in a graft every game, and he's a tidy little player. If he could just sort his final ball out, he'd be a right little. And his final shot, I feel like he'd be a right little gem. But other than that, he grafts for the team, and he can pick a nice little pass. So yeah, I think he's a good little player for Fornals.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think he epitomizes this new team in that. I think Moyes is happier to get someone maybe of slight, no disrespect to Fornals, but slightly less quality for the right attitude, and he does have the right attitude, and I think that's what we appreciate as fans, is having that attitude, having that workmanlike attitude, putting it a shift in. I mean, the last couple of games, I think it's probably the best he's played for us, really, in terms of the whole package.
Well, that little ball he played against Palace for Antonio to get on, and that flick for Souček, it was a lovely little ball and a lovely move, and yeah, he has got that in his locker. But as you said, it's the attitude and it's the work ethic that's keeping him there. Because again, we know that Lanzini's not been the same since he had that bad injury, but Lanzini on his day is as classy as anyone in the Premier League. But credit to Fornals. There's a reason why he's keeping him out the team right now, and it's because he will run through brick walls for the team, and that really epitomises this current David Moyes team.
And that's the thing. I think there is what I like about this team is like the amount of times. So I'm thinking like the Leeds game. I'm thinking the Crystal Palace game. The other team concede early on. You're thinking, I'm thinking, as you said, like a West Ham team of old, concede early, we lose 3-0. Or even like things like that Brighton game where it was 2-2, we'd have lost that game before.
Yeah,
we'd lost to Stockport. We'd have, there's these games where West Ham of old wouldn't have done that. You just seem to have this extra resilience, which I love. There's always a goal in us. That's what I like now. There's always a goal somehow, even when you're 3-0 down against the Premier League champions. Craig Dawson will come in with a, sort of a tap in, but there'll always be a goal. We very rarely don't score.
No, I agree. And there's lots of goals all across the team. Really, you think Antonio's always been full of goals, even when he's been playing at right back and things like that. He was still scoring. But then outside of that, Bowen can pop up with a goal. Souček can obviously pop up with a goal, and Ogbonna and Dawson are threats from set pieces, and Creswell can whip a ball in, and he's a good free kick taker. So we have got lots of goals in the team, and as you said, like that game against Palace, Zaha, even his first goal that he scored, he was outside the box. So even then, you kind of think there wasn't really much we could have done with that. We just hit a great strike from outside the box. It's gone bottom corner. It happens. And again, I feel like maybe the West Ham team of a year or two ago probably would have crumbled a little bit and, sort of fell away. But straight away after them, we're back on it and get back into the game, within like 10 minutes or so of conceding. And then after that, it was all us that game. It was, and, like 3-2 really flattered them. It really should have been, 4-5-6-1, really, that game. So
that's the only thing, that's the only fly in my ointment in terms of everything now is there's teams where we should have easily, you said the Man United game, we should have been far away. The Palace game, we should have scored another couple. I'm just nitpicking now.
No, I know what you mean.
And me, but
there's always room to improve. There's always room to improve. You've always got to be looking to go that extra level above, haven't you? And because it's one of those things. Very rarely we have a positive goal difference at this stage of the season. I'm glad we've got it, but we really, on the basis of play, we really could have had maybe we really could have been into double figures on our positive goal difference if we'd have, not hit the woodwork so much, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. I mean, where traditionally we are in the Premier League, the goal difference is superior than the teams around us. But we're in the big boy league now. We're in the big boy league, and having a 4 or 5, was it 7 plus goal? Spurs have got twice ours, and that's a point. That is a point. And I know it's stupid that we're even thinking like this at the moment, but come the end of the season, when
no, you know what, mate,
the European places are.
I think we've got a dream. I think we've got a dream, to be honest, because how often do we really have a season like this? And on top of that as well, it's not like it's just us that are being very, very good this season. The whole league is all over the place this year. I know City look like they're going to recapture their title-winning form But you know, like Man United, Liverpool, Spurs, you know, like in November, people were bigging up Spurs to win the league, and now they'd be lucky to make the top 4. So it really does show how quickly things can change. And again, Everton have been bigged up, and then you know that they dropped points against Newcastle, who looked like they were only going one way up at the weekend. So it's such a crazy season. If we can just keep, you know, chipping away, getting the wins against, you know, the Villas and stuff like that, who we've got coming up, and again, if we can maybe nick some points from some of the other bigger teams that we play, if we're still in and around it by the last, you know, like 4 or 5 games of the season, it'd be, you know, regardless of where we finish, then it'll be a fantastic run. But yeah, you know, we've got enough to be positive about, and with everything else going on, we really should be looking at Europa League at the very least and going, we can make this happen this year.
Yeah, easily we can, and that's again, it's I was talking to someone the other day, and obviously, you know, this will go out this will go out tomorrow, so obviously the transfer window closes today, but you know, where we're previously scrabbling around for players to save our season, now we're looking for players to improve our squad going into the second half of the season, which again is a totally bizarre concept for me, I think. To be honest. We wouldn't necessarily need a Jarrah Bowen or a Souček to get the goals which are going to keep us up, let alone we want to develop players and develop a squad to improve our chances of getting to Europe and things like that. It's bizarre. Yeah, it's a bizarre time to be a West Ham fan.
It is a very bizarre. It makes for a nice change of pace, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because especially since we moved to the new stadium, the amount of times I've kind of just sat there and gone, I'd do anything for a mid-table season this year, anything. And now, you know, like from where we are at the minute, you'd kind of go, if we finished around 8th, 9th, or 10th, it would be slightly disappointing at this stage. So, which, as a West Ham fan, that's really bizarre to say. Honestly, I feel like I've got to get the oxygen tanks out if we stay where we are any further. I tell you,
I know, I'm not used to this.
No.
Getting altitude sickness and all that stuff at the moment.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
Anyway, we love West Ham, and which is great. But the first question I want to ask for about 20 minutes in is why West Ham, though, George? Why is it your club, man? You know, what we see the shirt, but and you talk very eloquently about West Ham, but why?
Thank you. It's in the blood, mate. So as far back as I can remember, even before I could probably tell you what the concept of football was, from such a small age, my dad basically drilled into me anyone asks you about football, your answer is, I support West Ham. That's it. And you know, like my dad's had a season ticket since, if not the early 80s, the late 70s, and he was there the last time we won a trophy. So hopefully he'll be able to see another one this season. But when we won the FA Cup in 80. But my granddad was a big West Ham fan, so much so that he actually missed the birth of my uncle, who was his firstborn, because he was at West Ham. I mean, it was a different time back then, but that's crazy.
Say that, George. My daughter, her due day was the playoff final in 2012.
Oh no! Wow.
And I had a really good ticket, so obviously I was at the game. But yeah, I know what you mean. Though that's brilliant. Though she was born a few days later. So don't worry about that. She was all right. But
good.
I love the fact that he missed his firstborn.
Honestly, it was it's absolutely crazy. And because again, the society was a bit different back then. Obviously, that the husband wasn't usually at the birth.
Sure,
but
yeah.
He basically went to West Ham, got home, realised that my nan wasn't home, so he's gone next door and said, "Oh, where's Sylvia?" And then they've gone, "Oh, she's had to go to the hospital." And then he's gone to the nearest phone box, called up the hospital, and they've gone, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Ellis. Yeah, congratulations, you've got a boy." That kind
Brilliant. Love it. That's a great
absolutely
story.
mental. And so that was really, as I said, like before I could probably was even old enough to really understand the concept of what football was. I'd kind of just had it drilled into me that that you support West Ham, that kind of thing. So and I think that really sort of helped me, like even going to school and stuff, because then you kind of meet people that are Man United fans or Arsenal fans or Chelsea fans, that kind of thing. But just from that young age, it was always instilled in me. Whatever anyone says to you, your response is just, I support West Ham, and that's it. And it's one of those things. I remember my first game. It was 2002. I must have been about or 6, maybe, yeah, something like that, 6. And it was a good introduction. I will say this, because we beat Sunderland 3-0, which that's always a nice way to start. And I think, I looked it up earlier. I think it was Trevor Sinclair, Steve Lomas, and Jermaine Defoe scoring the goals. I think Joe Cole played in that game as well. And it was kind of surreal, because by that point I was, I was playing football myself for like youth teams and things. And to finally go to the stadium for the first time, it was just incredible. And I still remember singing Bubbles for the first time to this day, and the atmosphere and just being there. It was it was just brilliant, really. And it's just been my life pretty much since then, to be honest, mate.
It's a sensory thing, isn't it? I think it's one of those things where, arguably, you get a better view on the telly than you do at the stadium, just because you do. And that's great. You don't have to travel. You don't have to, whatever, get your popcorn or whatever, and all that stuff. But it's that sensory. It's that smell of the grass. It's particularly at the old gaff, it was the smell of those dodgy burgers. And I never really understood it, because by the supporters club there was always a very small, there was like a very small dead end, wasn't there? And for some reason there was conflicting burger stands on either side, and you're thinking, that's not very good town planning, is it, really? Because it must have been turf wars of those two. But
definitely.
But yeah, that smell and the cut grass, or particularly when you finish the game and the grass has been all cut up, and that's what I think people have missed. It's great. It's great. You can, it's great that the telly, football's on and everyone can see it, but it just pales in comparison to actually being there, isn't it?
No, completely. Because I ended up giving up my season ticket in 2018, and it's kind of weird, like not being able to go it's really kind of made me yearn for it a little bit more. So I feel like I'm definitely going to have to get back on that and try and get, even if it's right up in the cheap seats or somewhere like that, I just feel like I'm going to have to start getting back on it again soon. Because
I think everyone's going to be the same, mate, to be honest. I think it's one of those things where, for me, I think it's one of those things where someone, I remember one of the first people I interviewed said, it's a bit like a chore going to West Ham of the years. It has been a bit of a chore, but it's a chore they want to do again. And they can't wait to go and do it again. And I think people will appreciate this being there, appreciate everything about it, the walk, the stop and go signs, all that stuff. And that's what I think people missed. All those little things which I think people were going to almost taken for granted.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's so, I think people, obviously it's a horrible thing what's happened in terms of the pandemic and stuff, but it's just put things back into perspective, I think, for a lot of fans.
Completely. And you kind of realize that what's sort of important when this kind of thing goes on in the world. Obviously you need it all to be safe and ready in order for it to go back. But you do miss little things like that, even just, maybe going for a beer afterwards with your mates and the little stuff like that. Just like, funny enough for me as well, the little things, the match day music, mate. Honestly, I can't tell you enough just how much of like kind of an impact you've had on me through like your match day selections, because like you've introduced me to Muse, honestly, and the Clash and everything like that. Like, because when what was I? As I said, I was about 6 or 7 when I went to my first game, and then it was our first season in the Championship after we got relegated in 2003. My dad got me a half-season ticket for Christmas, and just like hearing Muse and hearing the Clash and all that on a weekly basis, that kind of thing. Those songs now, even when I hear them to this day, even if I'm in the car on the radio on a drive home, or if I've just got a random playlist on Spotify, when those songs come on, instantly it just takes me back to Upton Park and the London Stadium as well. Like those, and I think it's the Kill Bill theme song as well, right before the game kicks off.
Battle Without Honor. If you look at if you go and someone asked me this the other day, and I've just done it actually. If you go on Spotify and search for DJ _Russie B, then
They're all on there.
All my playlists that I play at the London Stadium now are all on there. So you've got, so basically, so you'll have if West Ham are winning at half time, there's one West Ham pre-match. So there you go.
Twist and shout if we win the game. I've
All
got to say as well.
The game, they're all there.
Yeah, I've got to say as well, I am a big fan of the Triple H theme music that's been blaring out recently as well. I love that. Absolutely love it. Again, it just kind of takes me back to like my childhood of playing SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. Triple H comes out, and it's just like if that doesn't get the players pumped, nothing will. To be honest,
it's a tune. It's a tune.
Absolute tune. Was it Motorhead? I think.
Yeah, Motorhead.
Yeah,
we've been doing it. We do it for a few weeks now, and because he's a hammer.
He's a hammer, isn't he? Yeah, I love that.
Hammer. And so. Yeah, no, it was the last but one game. It all just went got crazy because I think BT Sport had put it up and
really
and Trips like retweeted it or just put the iron signs a couple of times.
I love it.
Right, okay. So when you come on my Hammers 11, then Trips, that's the question.
Oh mate, yeah, get him on. Get DX on as well.
Get them all
exactly.
On. Yeah, it's good fun.
WWE roster.
Yeah, that's good fun. We had D Part on the other day, and his single Declan Rice is now, I think, it's charted about 22 in the top 40.
Jesus.
So
that's crazy.
As Clip says, we are effing massive.
No, mate, you are, man. As I said, like the people you've got on here, mate, it's incredible stuff, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun, man. It's good fun. Anyway, so we've proven your West Ham credentials there, George. And now, obviously, everyone we have on the channel, we get a Hammers 11 out of them. So, the idea is you can pick anyone you want. Obviously, you've paid for West Ham. But the only criteria is you have to be alive to have seen them play. You can pick whoever you want based on whatever criteria. And that's what we're going to do now. That's what we're going to do. So, I think there's only 3 people who haven't given a Hammers 11, which are Harry Redknapp. He didn't give one because he started talking about Bobby Ferguson and stuff like that. I
saw that one. I did think, is he going to pick a team here? What's going on?
No, he ran out of time. He started chatting about the old days and he ran out of time. Nigel Coker didn't give one. And
that's a bit of a weird one.
Nigel was Nigel, bless him.
He comes across a bit of an odd character.
Yeah.
A bit unique.
That's a good way to describe. And Bish didn't give one because he didn't want to piss anyone off. But then everyone else, all of his mates are all coming on ready to we've had a few of them other ones who haven't picked him. Oh, fucking Bish. But yeah, no, he's top man Bish. So that's what we'll do now, G. So in terms of your 11, who would be between the sticks?
So between the sticks for me, it was a bit of a tough choice because I think I have seen some good goalkeepers in my time. The first goalkeeper I can really remember for us is David James, I thought. But yeah, I remember he was with us when we got relegated, wasn't he, David James, I think? And but after that, I know we had Jimmy Walker for a while. He's a good character. And Shaka Hislop, Roy Carroll. The ones, for me, it was a real toss-up, though, between 2 goalkeepers. And one of them being Rob Green and the other one being Adrian. And Rob Green was brilliant for us during his time at West Ham. I'd like to ideally have kept him a little bit longer than what he ended up staying for in the end. He went to QPR when we got promoted, didn't he? But I'm going to go with Adrian. I just thought he was such a great character, and those first few years for us, I did think he was really quite good. He always, had a little bit of a wild moment in him, but for the most part, Adrian was pretty sound those first few years. It wasn't really until, say, Randolph kind of came into the picture a little bit, but Adrian for me, I kind of feel like he sort of epitomised West Ham to a degree. The way that he was so passionate for the club, and I feel like the fans really took to him. And we can't forget that penalty he scored against Everton. No. Absolutely brilliant, brilliant.
So in the interview, he did say, "Could you imagine if he'd missed it?"
That's the thing. That's the thing. Once you've thrown the gloves off, you have to score, because then if you don't, how awkward would it be if he's then got to go pick them up and put them back on?
Or you go like 1950 style with no gloves on. That would take some balls, isn't it? That would. Because also those gloves, you have to get someone else to help you put the gloves on.
Yeah.
It's just terribly embarrassing to him.
But it would have been. Thankfully, thankfully he stuck it away. And I remember as well that at Mark Noble's testimonial, he ran the length of the pitch, didn't he? I know he had about 3 bodyguards around him towards the end, but he stuck it in, and it kind of just summed up the day. Really, it was brilliant stuff. So yeah, I'm going with Adrian, narrowly beating Rob Green to it, but Adrian's going into my in between the sticks in goal.
Okay, that's Adrian in. Right, okay, let's move into defence. Go on, George. You start. You start to go over it as you go.
Okay, so I think I'll start right back. Now, I don't really think we've been amazingly blessed at right back during my term. Certainly not during the last few years or so. If we keep
until this year,
yeah, exactly. Soufal, what a bargain he is, by the way. 5 million quid. He can do it all. Defense, attack. Yep. He's been so consistent. He's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, before that though, I mean, I know we got Zabaleta towards the end of his career, and he did all right for us. And yeah, I feel like I kind of remember Redknapp playing at right back as well. I was kind of debating putting him in here as well, but I'm going to go for a guy who largely didn't play right back very much, but he did have a good long time at the club, and he was a guy that I really liked when he was here. And at the time, I wouldn't have sold him either. To be fair, I'm going to put James Tompkins at right back.
Yeah,
he had that final season at Upton Park. He played there, and again, it wasn't a great threat going forward, but of course he's a centre back, and yeah, he gave us a good few years at the club. The best part of I think 10 years or so, roughly, something like that. And yeah, proper West Ham boy. And as I said, I really wish we hadn't sold him when we did, because then we ended up bringing in Arbeloa on a free, who was a complete waste of space for us. So yeah, as I said, I'm kind of sort of squeezing him in there because he was mainly a centre back, but I'm putting him at right back just because he did have that last year at Upton Park. He was very good there, and over the length of time, I feel like he deserves a spot in the team somewhere. Definitely. So yeah, Tompkins for me.
Definitely.
That's what I'm going with.
Definitely. Right, we'll put JT in. Okay, JT goes at right back. Who's next then, George?
Who's next? I'm going to go with one of the first centre backs I can remember playing for the club. Bit of a cult hero, I would say. And again, we've seen some good. I say we've seen some good centre backs over the my time in watching West Ham. Winston Reed was probably a little bit unlucky to miss out, I would say, just because I think it's really been the last few years where he's not really been able to get any game time, which is a little bit sad. He was especially after we got promoted back to the Premier League, he was brilliant for us. We were lucky that teams like Arsenal didn't end up signing him, and he ended up sticking around, scored that incredible last goal at Upton Park, and which was just beautiful. But my first pick, I'm going to go with Christian Daley for me at centre back. My first, as I said, one of the first centre backs I can really remember at the club. Proper Scottish. He scored that great goal against Ipswich in the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
I just remember I was so young then. I must have been about 7 or 8, but I can still just remember the roof being blown off at Upton Park that night. It was absolutely incredible. And I couldn't understand a word he said either. At that age, I really couldn't.
No, because he did that after the game, didn't he? We gave him the mic. I remember he did this sort of like this Braveheart speech, you can take our freedom. And obviously, we then subsequently lost that game. We went to Cardiff. But I know what you mean. He was this there was just something inspiring about the man.
I loved him. And to this day as well, I think the song helps because, and again, it's been so drummed into me a little bit that if I meet someone new with curly hair, I really have to stop myself from just going, "Oh, Christian Daley, you are the love of my life." It's just like I have to stop myself from doing it every time I see someone with curly hair because I just associate curly hair with Christian Daley. And I really liked him for us. As I said, Winston Reed, probably a little bit unlucky not to get in there, but I've gone with Christian Daley as my first centre back choice. Just the memories there are just brilliant. And partnering him, I feel like I had to go with this guy. I've gone with Ginger Pele, James Collins. Absolutely love James Collins. What an absolute hero that man was for us at West Ham over 2 spells. Gave it all. he went to Villa for a little while, didn't he? And a little bit clean shaven, still had some hair. Come back, it's like he turned Super Saiyan when he came back. Like thick beard, like bald head, like just an absolute rock. And it's just, I think he loved the club as well. I think it was a couple of years ago when we played Arsenal away at the Emirates. I think we got thumped like 4-1. They scored about 2-3 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game. And James Collins, even though he was still playing for the club at the time, he was in the away end. It was brilliant. So one of my mates just gone, I think that's James Collins over there. And I was like, oh, man, got to go get a picture with him. And the crowd were just going, one Ginger Pele, one Ginger Pele. It was brilliant. And, like proper lion at the back, rock solid and, typical old school English type centre back that you could just would dive on a grenade if it was on the football pitch, that kind of thing. Love James Collins for us again. If Ogbonna gets a few more years out of this again, I might put Ogbonna in there if I ever revisit this thing at the minute. But yeah, Christian Daley and James Tompkins, James Collins. For me, my centre backs, absolutely love that pair.
Sounds a strong pairing, right? Okay, we'll put GP in there. Who's going to be left back then?
Left back, I think for me again, like fullbacks have really been kind of an issue for us over the years, haven't they? A real issue. And we were talking earlier about being proven wrong. And at the end of last season, as much as I had respect for the guy and was really happy with the service he'd given the club, I did think it was time for us to move him on. But this season, he's just, he looks like he's back to his best. He's been assisting loads of goals, and he's been whipping in tons of great crosses and free kicks and corners. I'm going with Aaron Creswell at left back for me. It's the only real. I know we had a few players like Ilunga and Dix was just before my time. Yeah. So I couldn't really put him in. So, but yeah, no, Creswell has just been. He's just been so consistent for us over the years, really. And, he's earned a few England call-ups along the way, which is really deserved. So, yeah, for me, there's only one choice at left back, and I'm going Creswell, mate.
Yeah, he's our top assister, isn't he, this season?
Yeah. Yeah, he's been doing really well. And as I said, when I do, maybe criticise the players, as I said, I did think it was at the very least I've got someone in and use Creswell as backup. But whether he's been playing in the back three or in the back four, he's adjusted to both roles brilliantly. For me, it's got to be Aaron Creswell at that left back spot all day long.
Yeah, he's as you said, he's rejuvenate. His career's started again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's been fantastic for us this season. Absolutely fantastic.
Right, okay, Cress is in. That's the 4. That's the keeper. Let's move into midfield. Who's going to be midfield then, man?
Right, so I think I'm going to start left midfield, and I kind of had to put this guy in there because I didn't really think I could have my midfield without him. But probably a little bit unlucky to miss out Matty Effington. I really remember him growing up, and he was fantastic for us. Again, him against Ipswich, and it's a bit of a shame we couldn't get a few more years out of him. He had a few issues, which I was so glad to see he turned it around at Stoke, because the guy really deserved it. He was brilliant for us, and I'd have just liked to have seen us maybe get a few more years out of Effington. So he's a little bit unlucky. And if I was doing this purely based on the best players I'd ever seen for the club, there could only be one man in that left midfield spot, and that would be Dimitri Payet. But it's just the way he left the club. It really left a sour taste in my mouth, to be honest, man. I can't put him in there. No, I just can't. And the thing is as well, I don't really think anyone can maybe blame him for wanting to leave, because especially after he had that brilliant year, he had that brilliant season for us, and then he was incredible at the Euros as well. And I think all West Ham fans were France fans in that tournament. We all wanted him to win it. And after that tournament, all the way up till the summer deadline day, we're all sitting there going, oh God, are Real Madrid, Barcelona going to come in for him? Like, what's going to happen? They're like, how are we going to, get to the end of the transfer window and him still be a West Ham player? We get there, and to be honest with you, we probably would have settled for, if someone had offered it to us before that, if somebody said, you get to keep Payet, but you sign no other players, I feel like the majority of West Ham fans probably would have taken that. But then he refused to play. And I just think that there's a right way and a wrong way to conduct yourself as a professional footballer. You know, like I think we've probably all worked jobs that we maybe don't like, and you don't just go, oh, I don't like it, I'm not going to come in anymore. No, you keep doing your job properly, you keep remaining professional, and especially with what we'd given to him as a football club, I do feel like, again, he could have handled the situation a lot better. So I'm not gonna put Pie in there. I'm gonna put Joe Cole in a number at left midfield, just because, again, going back to my childhood, the guy could play. The guy could absolutely play. It's one of those things as well where he was terrific for us. He loved West Ham. He still loves West Ham. He's one of those people that I think we'd all love to see him back at West Ham in some capacity in the future. And just a brilliant player. And I just think if he hadn't have had such a few injuries, he probably could have, got a similar kind of trophy haul that Rio and Frank Lampard ended up getting. He was that good a player.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And he's one of those players as well that I think I was listening to a podcast he did with Tom Davis. I think it's the first one he did in the series that they do it. I think it's Joe. I think it's joe.co.uk. And he was saying that, in essence, he's a street footballer at heart. He's always been a street footballer. And if that's the case, then you have to say that his time at West Ham was when he was the most Joe Cole-like. Because he was that one. It must have been based on that. Obviously, not the most successful, but in terms of being a West Ham, being true to himself, it was that time at West Ham, because he was a street footballer in essence, wasn't he? He was the centre of everything. He was doing the spins, the flicks, the tricks, the Rabonas, all those types of things.
Brilliant stuff.
I mean, he was doing Rabonas before everyone knew what Rabona was. You know what I mean?
I know. He was absolutely brilliant, and his technical ability. I do think you're right in terms of his form. Anyway, he probably did have his best years at West Ham. I know he won the league and a couple other bits and bobs with Chelsea, but it was a shame he had a lot of injuries there, and obviously. Unlike, say, if he'd maybe got injuries with us, he'd have probably just walked straight back into the team. But when you're getting injured and then all of a sudden you've got Iron Robin as the guy you've got to potentially get out of you're going to struggle. And as I said, it was such a shame for his career because, even seeing him on the media now, he comes across as such a sound guy, really sound guy.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He comes across really he's got a good football brain. But he comes across so well, and he will do well whenever he decides, right, it's time to get into coaching properly. Whoever picks him up will have a great coach in their hands.
I think as well, he'd be a great man manager, because a lot of people maybe have the tactical knowledge, but then maybe can't relate to players, or maybe, some players just need an arm around the shoulder. And I feel like he could do that, as I said, because he just comes across as such a nice guy. Whereas you look at, Frank Lampard, who obviously just lost his job at Chelsea, and you kind of think, tactically, he was such an intelligent footballer. You would think that tactically he would be adept enough to succeed there. But I think a lot of the players probably didn't like his man management style. And especially in this day and age where the players are, like multimillionaires, a little bit spoiled, that kind of thing. You've really you can't always be that stern. No, you do this because I've told you to do this. Sometimes you've got to, I don't want to say wrap them in cotton wool, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you've just got to sort of mollycoddle them a little bit and get them over there. And I think
the trouble with Lampard as well is in my opinion, he succeeded because obviously he was good last year, did well last year. Yeah. When he was basically, as you said, was pretty much working with the kids who would look up to him, and so he could. As you said, then he moved into a world where he was paying 20-30 million pounds for players, and it's a different ball game, really. In the same way that I never think truly that Abramovich saw him as a full-time manager.
Oh, I agree.
He was just a caretaker for 18 months.
It was a thing because he did better than probably anyone expected in that first season. Yeah. And then Abramovich has kind of gone, oh shit, I have to give it to him full time now, because he did do it when you consider the age of that squad, getting Champions League football into a cup final. Chelsea fans would have lapped that up at that going into that season, and just probably out of depth with all those big money signings and trying to gel them all in at once. And yeah, I agree. He was like, well, we'll get a proper manager in when we can sign players again. But because he got them further than a lot of people thought that he would have done, they were like, oh, well, we kind of have to let him carry on now. And it went a bit tits up the last few months. But yeah, whereas I think Joe Cole, I think he'd be able to empathise, I think, with the players a lot more. I would say.
Yeah, I get you.
So,
I get that.
yeah, my left midfield, Joe Cole, moving into. I'm going to move straight over to right midfield, and again, I'm trying to think now. So I know who's going in there, and it's a guy that's played. I'd say probably Trevor Sinclair's a little bit unlucky not to make it. I think he probably only just misses out because I kind of caught him towards the back end of his career. But I still remember that he was the first player I ever saw score at Upton Park in my first ever game. So I love him for that. But I think I'm going to put in the guy that should ultimately become our highest Premier League goal scorer of all time soon. I'm going with Mikael Antonio at right midfield. One of the many positions that he's played. I could have. I mean, if I could have possibly put him in at right back, striker, he'll play anywhere, wouldn't he? And I love Mikael. I love Mikael Antonio. He's he's again such a grafter, and you can tell that he's had to graft to get to where he is, through non-league football, Tooting and Mitcham. And, he scored that goal against Southampton at Upton Park that went in off his face, which is almost a little bit, I don't want to say typical Mikael Antonio, but it epitomizes him to some degree because it's great, but it's also so weird as well.
Yeah.
And just full of pace. He's got goals in him galore. He was still scoring goals at right back. And, now that he's moved into the striker role, I think it's perfect for him because he's an absolute unit. He's a monster of a man, absolute monster. And I love how much he puts into the games. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve. He gives it his all. And he's got some cracking celebrations in him as well. He's got some absolute great celebrations.
He brings that back, wasn't it? I mean, the celebration, bar some silly little hand gestures from Son and them lot and Daley Alley and people like that.
Yeah.
No one really does a good celebration.
No,
I'm
shitty
thinking
Fortnite dances now.
I'm thinking like proper like Robbie Keane or like he's proper like a Luar, Lamar, when he used to do the flips and that's why I think Antonio just brings a bit of fun into scoring a goal. You know what I mean? It's like football's such a it's so
professional now. I think it's lost its soul a little bit in that sense. It does make me a little bit sad. And when you see players expressing themselves and enjoying themselves, especially when they've scored a goal, which is if you can't celebrate when you've scored a goal, when can you celebrate really? And that whole thing, where he's crawling on his back, and then they're like, "Oh, why did you do that, Mikael?" And he's like, "Well, I lost a bet with Declan Rice on Call of Duty Mobile, and that was my forfeit." It shows great team spirit and a great unity, and it's just. Again, it's good that the players are mates with each other and that outside of the pitch as well. And he also scored. He also scored in the last ever game at Upton Park, and was the first goal scorer at the London Stadium for us. And to be honest with you, the only thing that I could, probably really criticise him for, and I say it's criticism, it's not. It's just he always picks up at least 2 or 3 injuries a season. And. I'd love to see where his goal tally would be if he'd never picked up any injuries for us, because I do think he'd have a good number of extra goals to his. I think he'd have already broken De Caneo's record, to be honest. Just a guy that I love watching, and again comes across as such a sound guy. So I love Mikael.
My only note to Antonio, notes, is it does take him a couple of games. Running. Do you know what I mean? It's like I remember, like twice this season where he's been injured and come back. That first game he's come back, he's been absolute dross. So Villa, he was absolutely crap, and then
he had to come off at half time, didn't he? In that game.
But once he's up, once he's got the bit between his teeth, is a different character.
Yeah, completely. I almost feel, especially in that Villa game, it was almost like we were trying to maybe push him back before he was ready. And then, yeah, he does take a couple of games to get up to speed. But then once he's up to speed, he just absolutely bullies teams. And that, the way the West Brom players were bouncing off of him the other day, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was like watching an adult like play football with children, but a super competitive adult. They were just
like
bouncing off of him.
When Boris Johnson did it, he was in Japan, and he like that little 4-year-old kid, bless him, absolutely twatted him out of the way. That's basically what he did to poor
I know, and I was like, this is grown men. He's been doing this to honestly, like he would run if he wouldn't want to get in his way. If he's sprinting full pelt, he would run you over. But no, absolutely, as you said, a little bit of it takes a couple of games to get up to speed, but generally, love the guy. And to be fair, he's scored some goals this season that I probably didn't think he had in his locker going. Like the goal against City, that was brilliant, and the one that was against West Brom, the other one that he's kind of hooked in. And again, that little flick back to Souček against Palace the other day, like I feel like he's really must have taken the time in training to work on these things, because there was a while where he probably had a bit of a poor touch for a Premier League player, and I feel like he's really kind of gone on. And
I think that's what I quite like about him. There's still this rawness about him. Do you know what I mean? Despite the fact he's played how many Premier League games, he's still very raw. He's still doesn't know what he's going to do next. So how can you defend against that? And I think that's what's really exciting about Antonio.
Completely agree. I completely agree. He seems to. It's like he's not forgotten his roots, and as a result, every game he plays in the Premier League, it means you see it. It means so much for him, because for him, probably maybe 10 years or so ago, if you'd have said to him, this is the point where you would be in 10 years, he might not have believed it, because having the graft so hard to get there, and he's just been great for us. So I'm sticking Antonio in midfield, and coming into the centre midfield, this is probably where we start getting to some of my more favourite West Ham players. And again, we've had some really good centre midfielders in my time here. Again, one that I used to really like was Yossi Benayoun. Great. He was a great little player for us, and absolutely, a bit of a magician at points. And but I think for me, the guy that one of the guys that I've had to go with in the centre midfield, I'm going to have to go with Scott Parker, mate, to be honest with you. Absolutely loved Scott Parker. I think I was kind of at that age where, like, teenage years, and he was just absolutely phenomenal for us. That goal that he scored against Wigan when we won 3-2 to keep us up that year, it was sublime. And he'd really, if we hadn't had him, we would have got relegated that year. And the look on his face, it was Stuart Pearce-esque after we scored that penalty in '96. The look on Parker's face when he drills that bottom corner and we stay up, win the game 3-2. It was just great. And honestly, the way that the fans got behind him, there were points where we'd have a corner and he'd go to take it, and the whole stadium would just erupt in applause. It was just incredible. So I was really probably around, as I said, I was probably at that right age for Scott Parker's time at our club, and I just love the guy. Really, he won the Writers' Player of the year we got relegated, which I think really shows just not only how poor a team we were, but also just how good he was. So I know some people take the piss out of that a little bit, but I feel like that the bigger teams don't give him the respect for that, because we would have been mathematically done at like Christmas if it wasn't for him. So I loved Scotty Parker, and 3 Hammer of the Year awards in a row. I think the only other player to do that was to Trevor Brooking, and that guy's got a stand named after him. So and I think only Trevor Brooking, Bonds, and Moore, I think, have won more Hammer of the Year awards than Scotty Parker. And that's mental, isn't it, when you think about it? Because he was only with us like what, 3-4 years, something like that, I think. But he was brilliant, and fought his way back into the England team as well. Obviously, I imagine the main reason why possibly not many people put him in their team is the Spurs thing, which Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? But I do remember because he went to Spurs when we got relegated, and he deservedly broke his way back into the England team at that point. And Capello had made it clear, I'm not going to pick any players in the Championship. And Spurs had got Champions League football that year. So, I feel like only the real diehard West Ham fans would have ever rejected that move. You're in a relegated club that, and then a Champions League team comes in for you. Only the diehards, I think, would have really rejected that move, to be honest. But yeah, I thought he was brilliant for us, so I had to go Scotty Parker as my my first centre mid.
And I mean, the ironic thing is now looking back at it in the summer, obviously we were literally walking Declan Rice out the door, wasn't it, to Chelsea?
Yeah,
there we go. And it's oh, good luck. Yeah, well done. Well done. Good luck. Good luck to you, mate. It's like, well, where was the difference? Do you know what I mean? If we're looking at it objectively, and people go, oh, because it was Tottenham. It's like, well, hang on. Martin Peters is a player that everyone loves. He went to Tottenham.
I feel like everyone forgets that. Everyone forgets
Bobby Moore was going to put a transfer request in to go to Arsenal or Tottenham, and as you said, we've got a stand named after him. I think, we say all we want is players who are going to play for the shirt. There's no denying that every time Scott Parker went across that pitch, he played for that shirt, and he played, and he carried that team. He said, crap team. We had a crap team.
It was a dreadful team. That year we got relegated under Avram Grant. I think we won more cup games than we did league games, because we got to the semi-final of the Carling Cup and like the quarter-final of the FA Cup, something like that. And I know we scored against Liverpool and we won that game, which is probably the only league game I can remember us winning that season because we were dreadful. Yeah. And I remember us being 3-0 down at half-time away at West Brom, and then fuck knows what Avram Grant was doing, but Scotty Parker's the one that's giving the halftime team talk. Probably good practice for his future career as a manager now. And Colton Cole was interviewed after the game, and he's saying, I had tears in my eyes. He was really inspiring. And I'm like, well done, Scotty Parker. But what are you doing, Avram Grant? I couldn't believe it.
Mental.
Yeah, absolutely mental. And it's going back to the whole thing with Declan Rice, as you said, I feel like you're right. Loads of people were almost, saying, "Oh, good luck, Declan," when it looked like he was maybe going to go to Chelsea. But Scotty Parker, no one does that, and I still feel like nearly every day on Twitter, I must see at least one West Ham fan still fawning over Payet. And don't get me, obviously, it was magic for us. He did think in my lifetime, he's probably the most talented player I'd ever seen play at West Ham. So, but the romanticism that's there when the guy still effectively snaked us. And then I'm like, we got relegated with Scotty Parker. A Champions League team came in for him. And you're gonna treat him like he's the worst person in the world. I never really got that, because I did think he deserved. I think whenever he came back to play against us, I think he deserved a much better reception than what he got. It'd normally be quite mixed, but
it would be,
But no, he was brilliant for us. So I had to put Scotty Parker in as my first centre midfield role, and then my second centre midfield role is my favourite West Ham player of all time. Will probably be my favourite West Ham player of all time forever. It's my generation's Billy Bonds. I'm going with Mark Noble all day long. Has to be Mark Noble. Absolutely love the guy. I mean, where'd you start? Just West Ham through and through. Canning Town born lad, and he has been West Ham. He's part of the furniture, and I feel almost a little so sad, like seeing him. Like thinking he's going to have to retire soon, and I don't think I'm emotionally ready for that. No. I kind of like where we are with him at the minute, in that we maybe bring him on for 15-20 minutes. If we're maybe winning the game, like 1 or 2-0, just to get that extra body in midfield. He can do that role, and he's a leader, and I love the fact that Rice, every time he comes onto the pitch, Rice hands in the armband. He knows who his captain is, and
definitely.
I feel like as well, to a certain degree, I want to say fans, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with not wanting Noble to start. But I think, sometimes he gets a bit disrespected, which he doesn't deserve. I feel like that there's a reason why he's been there so long. And up until this part of his career, there's a reason why every single manager was picking him. There's a reason why every single manager had him on their team sheet. You know, when you think Bilic, Pellegrini, Allardyce, Grant, Zola, they all, you know, going back, Pardew, Kirbishley, they all went with Mark Noble, and they all did it for various reasons. And it was because you knew that he was so reliable. You knew that he was West Ham through and through, and such a leader. And I feel like any new players coming into that club, you know that Mark Noble's going to look out for them. He's going to make them feel like that, like home. And the turnout he got for his testimonial was so deserved. It was so deserved, to be honest with you. I couldn't, as I said, I really hope that whether it goes into coaching or something like that, I really hope that, you know, he's still at the club in some capacity when he does finally call time on his playing career. I love the guy. My favourite West Ham player.
Yeah. And I think, as you're right, I think you're right. In this role he's doing now, this sort of 15-minute role, and then, you know, playing in the cups. That's, you know, he could do that easily for another couple of seasons, really. Realistically. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like he's 15, 20 minutes, and he's not, and he's still fit as a fiddle, and you know, he just comes on to tie up the game. And you know, hopefully it will, you know, they'll give him the extra contract, the extra year, so he can do it next year. Could be his last season maybe, and then I think that's sort of goes without saying.
It's another part of the reason why I'm so desperate for us to you know, try and get the cup this year, just because if he wins that, then I don't think anyone could not put him in that category of, you know, like Bobby Moore, Billy Bonds, Trevor Brooking status of club legend. And I feel like that's the only thing that some people might hold against him, is that we've not won anything with those players. You know, he's not won anything for us, but yeah, it would just be great just to, if he could lift that trophy, like it would just cap off a brilliant career for us. And yeah, just absolutely love the guy. So yeah, Mark Noble, my centre mid, alongside Scotty Parker.
Nice.
And moving into the forwards now.
Go on him.
So again, obviously under the Golden Sullivan era, we've had a fair few shite forwards, in my time. But you know, we have had some good ones in there. The first, you know, like some of the first forwards I can remember: Freddie Canute, Jermaine Defoe. You know, they were great for us at times. And then Marlon Harewood, I think he's the forward that I can really kind of remember. You know, like you know, when I was like 8, 9, when we were in the Championship, obviously scored that semi-final goal, and it was, you know, absolutely brilliant. Teddy Sheringham as well. We had, you know, he was 40 odd and he had a good little spell. But Tevez was another. Tevez was you know, he kept us up that year. You know, he took a little while to get going, but then he scored that free kick against Tottenham, and he never looked back, did he, Tevez? I did love Tevez, and Tevez was probably so close to making this team, but he just probably misses out. My first player I'm going to put in is a guy that I absolutely love, and I think loyalty is a big part of it. I'm going with Colton Cole as my first striker.
Yes.
You know what, the thing that I really kind of like about Cole, because obviously we spoke about Noble, and you know, like Canning Town lad, West Ham in his blood. Colton Cole was originally a Chelsea boy and came through their academy. And I was there at his debut actually, when he came on off the bench and scored immediately, and that kind of like blew my mind as about, you know, like a 9 or 10-year-old, because I'd never seen someone come on off the bench for West Ham and score so quickly. So yeah, I was and I'd honestly, for that week or so before he played again. And I do love Colton Cole, but I'd thought that we'd signed like the next Brazilian Ronaldo, and you know, I love Colton Cole, but I think even he'd probably admit not quite that level of player, but no, Colton Cole was brilliant for us, and again, loyalty. And I remember when we got relegated, and I think him and Noble, I think they had the options to go back to Premier League clubs, and I think all the players, including like Collison and stuff like that, I think they all had to like reduce their wages by half. And I think a lot of people were saying to Colton Cole, why not go to Stoke? I think it was Stoke that wanted him. And I think he'd been playing for England a couple of years before that. So his stock was quite high. And, he turned around and said, nah, I'm home here. And, I just want to play my football at West Ham and do our best to try and get us back to the Premier League. And he scored that. He scored the opener at Wembley in the playoff final. And at the end of the game, I think he came out on Twitter and said something along the lines of, people told me to leave, but you can all go fuck yourselves. I love it here. Something along those lines. And it's just brilliant. And, again, like I didn't, when we released him, I thought it was the wrong move because, Andy Carroll getting injured. Who would have ever seen that come in? Yeah, exactly. And then we had to re-sign him 3 months later.
Brilliant, wasn't it? So
yeah,
funny.
and yeah, it was. That was typical. That's as West Ham as you'll ever see, isn't it? But yeah, then we bring him back, and we got another good couple of years out of him. He scored some goals, helped keep us up again, and yeah, no, I just, as I said, like probably not the best. As again, if I was going with probably the best team of all time, Tevez probably would take his spot, but
yeah,
no, I love Carlton Cole, and I love seeing him on Sky and things now. He just comes across like a really great guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you said, I just think it's funny, when we signed him, it was absolutely brilliant when it was like Super Carlton comes in to save the day, wasn't it? So yeah, having just let him go 3 months later, whatever.
Don't. But it's so West Ham, and yeah, but no, bless him. I love Carlton. I feel like he's our adopted son to a certain, like Mark Noble's like our true son, like by blood. But I feel like Carlton Cole, like when we played Chelsea straight after the lockdown, I think he was doing a thing with Sky, and they were getting him and like Steve Sidwell and maybe another couple of ex-players to watch it. And when Yarmolenko made it 3-2, he's there visibly celebrating, going, yes, come on, West Ham. And again, I think a few Chelsea fans kind of called him out on Twitter and said, oh, like, why are you celebrating against us? You came for our academy. And he said, like, obviously Chelsea will always have a bit of a place in my heart. But he was like, no, West Ham's my team. It's my home. I helped get them to the Premier League. And I was like, I want them to stay there. And yeah, you just get loyalty. I love it. It's something that you don't see enough of in football this day and age. And yeah, when you get a player like that, you just kind of have to, as I said, you just got to love him really. And yeah, so for me, yeah, Carlton Cole, absolutely love the guy. So he's my first striker. And yeah, moving on to my final place, and I could not have this guy. It's probably the first West Ham player I can remember, the maverick that is Paulo De Caneo.
Yeah, gotta be Paulo.
It's gotta be Paulo. It's got to be Paulo. What can you say about the man, really, that hasn't already been said? Genius, really, a genius of his craft. And, like just to come in, obviously, he'd had that whole incident where he pushed the referee over and Redknapp's taken a gamble on him. And it was one of those things where every match day, you didn't know what was going to happen. And it's so rare to get that from a football player.
True.
And just the goals he scored, like the goal against, obviously the Wimbledon one is the big one, and that is the best one because that to this day I still can't think of another Premier League goal that's even remotely similar to that. Whereas you see some great overhead kicks, but you probably see maybe a couple of overhead kicks a season, that kind of thing. Rooney, obviously Andy Carroll, even Haller against Palace at home this season. You see overhead kicks, but that bicycle kick from De Caneo was something else. And he scored, like, I think I remember we were like 2-0 down against Chelsea. I think it was the year we got relegated, and we came back and won the game 3-2. And one of the goals that De Caneo scored, it was just outrageous. And yeah, no, just an absolute maverick of a player. And he still loves West Ham. He's still West Ham. He's still got the tattoo. And I remember at Mark Noble's testimonial, he had to score, didn't he? He had to score. It was absolutely brilliant. And again, like at least the last 10 years, probably not the best position for West Ham. Again, Dean Ashton probably a little bit, probably a little bit unlucky. What player he could have been if not for the injuries. He honestly, he would have gone on and had loads of caps for England and probably played for Man United, someone like that, Dean Ashton. But yeah, it had to be De Caneo. Just the guy was a genius, and him, Joe Cole, those kind of players that, again, being that sort of like 5, 6, 7 when they were at the club, they're the sort of players that when you go out in the street to play football, you were Joe Cole, you were De Caneo. You had to pretend to be those guys, and because they were phenomenal. So yeah, just an absolute brilliant entertainer, and yeah, I just again, like, just every time you see him, it's just, you just get that little bit of nostalgia comes back, and yeah, no, just great stuff. So yeah, De Caneo.
I mean, as you said, he's an entertainer, and he was you'd pay just to go and watch him, wouldn't you? And as well as being a fantastic footballer, he had this other side of him, and it's like you didn't know what side was going to turn up.
Yeah.
He's like a one-man soap opera.
Oh, he was like the throw in the strop, and I think was it Coventry? I can't remember now. Where I think we won the game 5-4. It might have been someone else. Where
was it the Bradford City game?
Oh, Bradford, that was it. Yeah, Bradford 5-4. Yeah, that was it. And he's just, I think Lampard wanted the penalty, and he just wouldn't give it to him. And like, he just, even if you get thumped, Paulo Di Canio would have been worth the price of the admission alone, and because you just didn't know what you were going to see, and that the catching the ball against Everton, just man, just absolutely.
Love him.
Like, just absolutely maverick stuff.
Smile, didn't he? To be honest, he just sat there. When you talk about what you got to say is the word Paulo Di Caneo, and you're smiling.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and it's like there's certain players. There's like him, who has like Shaka Hislop, who would make me smile.
Yeah.
These type of players just smile when you listen, when you think about their time at the club. And as you said, Paulo was Paulo, and we were very fortunate to have him at the
I think Redknapp kind of, like, when he bought him, he kind of knew you've just got to let that guy be a free spirit, and you'll get the best out of him. And that was what he was when he played football. He was a free spirit, and as a result, he thrived off of that. Whereas if you try and rein him in, you're going to get some backlash. He's going to fight you on that. But if you say to him, "Go do you, go play how you want to play," and you're just letting genius unfold at that point.
Yeah, and you just got to let him. Just as you said, there's certain players that you just got to he said, just let play. You couldn't control him.
Yeah.
Redknapp, by his own admission, couldn't control Paulo. Paulo was Paulo. And yeah, but we were just lucky to have him. And he knows that. Not only were we lucky to have him, he was lucky to have us, because, as he said, he pushed over the referee. His career was basically on the scrap.
Yeah.
And we turned him into this Premier League legend, really. I mean, he wasn't really bringing up lots of trees. He was good at Sheffield Wednesday, but he wasn't in the same sort of bracket as a Zola or a Bergkamp. But he was after his time at West Ham.
But the thing is, as well, I think, like, if you're going on technical ability alone, he is one of the most gifted players to have played in the Premier League, for sure. You didn't maybe know what you were going to get with him sometimes, but as a West Ham fan, that's kind of the thrill. And when you got to look at it and go, we might win the Intertoto Cup this year, you really need that kind of player that's just going to do something different and steal the limelight, and he was that.
Definitely. And that concludes the 11, George. It's a very cathartic process, isn't it? Going through.
Oh, it is. Like, I mean, to be fair, like, I've pretty much, since we arranged it, I kind of knew then and there. I was kind of like, I just got to think it over, that, because we have had some great players down the line, and again, I think we've got a couple players in the squad now that, if they stick around for a few more years, they might usurp some of the other players I've got in there. But
maybe, yeah. But I think the difficulty is now is players don't hang around for a long time. No,
exactly.
Those ones in your
like,
memory.
If you could guarantee me that the Rice is going to be at West Ham his whole career, like, I'm putting him in over Parker at that point. But it's just and like, I think Ogbonna's been brilliant for us this season as well, and but yeah, just that iconic cult figure of Christian Daley and the Ginger Pele, just brilliant guys. So yeah, it's such a weird, almost like, I don't want to say picking your children, because maybe not, But again, like as I said, like Tevez, Ashton, Harewood, and even even some players that maybe weren't there for that long. Sheringham was 40 when he played for us, and he could still play. He could still play, but yeah, as I said, I think my team was largely boiled down to who was your favourite player that ever played there, and I think that was really it. That was my process to get there in the end.
That's a good shout. It's a good shout, G. Anyway, thank you so much, man. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, mate.
It's been really easy. I've just literally had not to do any I just let you chat. I didn't even have to go for the positions. You and into central midfield. This is brilliant. I can just sit back.
I think it's just I turned into my podcast host mode and was like, no, man.
Brilliant. It's very, very good, George. Thank you. And obviously, thank you.
Thank you for having me, mate. If I know you're super, super busy, but if there's ever a point where you've got a free moment in your schedule, you're more than welcome to come onto our podcast. Go through your top 10 hammers of all time. So you're not restricted by players you've seen live or positions. If you want 10 forwards, mate, you can have 10 forwards.
Sounds good.
Man. If you've ever got a free moment, just hit us up. We'll have you on and we'll get your top 10 West Ham players of all time, mate. But no, thank you. It's been to be on here. Like you've had Redknapp and like Tony Gow, Cotty, even like YouTubers like Jack Mate and the West Ham Fan TV guys, and all these. You've got, you just said, over like 51 former players. No, man, it's a privilege to be on here, and I really appreciate you letting me come on.
It's great. Appreciate your time, and obviously, thanks everyone for listening as well or watching, of course.
Oh, mate, yeah, I'm burning through them, man. I'm burning through them. They're getting me. Like in the afternoons, I work on my own. Like my colleagues start earlier and than I do. So in the afternoons, I've literally just been going through the playlist of them all basically in the afternoon. So yeah, really enjoyed it, mate.
There for you, man. Plenty there for you.
Yeah, mate. Great stuff.
Thank you to everyone who's been listening to this one as well. Who's been listening and watching this one. Thank you. Whether you've been watching it on YouTube or whatever, podcast, whatever, give it a shout, give it a like, give it a share. And from myself and from George, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again.
Come on, you irons.
Come on, you irons. Take care, everyone.
See you later.